Inferior. That's the nothing personal word of the day. It's Thursday, October 9th, 2025. Today's episode is brought to you by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. The New York Yankees are inferior to the Toronto Blue Jays. Regular season records be damned. The reality for New York Yankees fans, New York Yankees players, and the New York Yankees front office is that their season came to an unceremonious conclusion last night when Toronto closed out the series 3-1, advancing to their first league championship series since 2016. I could start with Aaron Judge going 13 for 26, having an outstanding postseason in terms of average, 1 home run, 7 RBI. I could do that. I could go right to talking about how the supporting cast was just abysmal. The fact that the Yankees hitters, the Yankees lineup was basically anemic other than game 3. Could do that. I could instead choose to talk about the bullpen. No, I don't want to do that. Instead, I want to go right to the front office, right to Brian Cashman, right to Aaron Boone, the manager of the team, and get right to the heart of the matter. After a game like that, you should expect Aaron Boone to take the microphone and say, I'm under contract next year. Nothing to see here. You should expect Brian Cashman to not meet with Hal Steinbrenner, the owner of the team, because emotions are running high because the Yankees, after losing the World Series last year to the Dodgers, even while losing Soto, had the view that this year was the year they'd win the World Series for the first time since 2009. The raw emotion that a front office feels after being eliminated by a team is split into 2 different sectors. One is when you believe you're the better team and lost because of a fluke error. You lost because you just got cold at the wrong time. Dodgers losing to Diamondbacks back a couple years ago. That's one side. The other side is when, as a front office, you look at yourself and say, we lost because we're not the better team. Because we don't have the pitching, we don't have the hitting, whatever the case may be. 2 different ways to go about after being eliminated. It is so important that you go down the right path. Because if you go down the path of, we lost to a team that is worse than we are not inferior to that team, we just had a bad baseball luck. It informs what you do during the offseason. If you go down the path of, we're not good enough, we look at our team and we say, the Blue Jays are better, the Red Sox, we beat them, they're better, the Rays have new ownership, and, well, the Orioles have all these. No, you just look at the Blue Jays and say, we're not enough. The reason that's so important for the Yankees to do, and that's what we need to look for, is that I could tell you that Grisham, Bellinger, Jazz, Wells, Volpe, they go 0 for 20 with 9 Ks. I could give you stats till the cow jumps over the moon. I could tell you that Max Fried and Carlos Rodon as a 1-2, adding Garrett Cole to that, you've got this amazing guy, Schlittler, who actually gave you 6+ innings last night, gave up 4 runs. That should be enough. The offense should be able to score more. I could do all that. But here's the sad truth that Hal Steinbrenner better come to grips with, and I mean quickly. The sad truth is the New York Yankees as a team are not good enough to win a World Series. The sad truth is that Aaron Judge every year is showing to be the best player in baseball who wasn't born in Japan. And every year passes with another opportunity lost because the people surrounding him, the team surrounding him, is not good enough. The sad truth is that as the core of players gets older, Goldschmidt's going to be a year older, Stanton's going to be a year older. I guess you're right. Everybody's a year older next year, if you're lucky enough. But in baseball, as you get to the wrong side of 30, then 33, then 34, then 35, you cannot expect even the same level of performance. So the New York Yankees are put in a position where after losing last night's game, they have to decide which path they're going to go down. I think it's easy on an individual player basis. You look at Volpe, it doesn't matter. He went 1 for 15 with 11 Ks in this series. Doesn't matter that he got booed, just like it doesn't matter he had a great over-the-shoulder boulder holder catch. It doesn't matter any of those things. That's a Beaches reference, Coca, and that is really a deep cut. None of that matters. Volpe's not going to be back. But what does matter is when they're deciding, as the owner of the team, who are we going to have making these decisions? Do we have Brian Cashman continue to make the decisions with the same baseball people he has? Do we let there be another change in coaches, another change in manager, although there hasn't been one in way too long, another change in the sort of behind-the-scenes baseball guys who were advising Brian Cashman? Or do we make the change at the top with Brian Cashman? Do we just make Brad Ausmus the manager and see if that is going to be the difference? It's the hardest day to wake up this day for the Yankees, because you wake up and you realize that the on-field nightmare that you have been a part of was not in your dreams. It was actually real. What I hope happens, because it will be so good for our show, I hope that Devin Williams goes to another team, is not re-signed by the Yankees. And I hope Hal Steinbrenner, as part of his off-season press availability, says after much consideration, looking through our season, evaluating our players, it is my belief that the reason the Yankees didn't win the World Series, which is unacceptable, is that our players had facial hair. That, to me, would be the perfect end to this season for Yankees fans. To have George Steinbrenner's son get in front of a camera and tell you it's all because of the beard, baby. We're going back. The Toronto Blue Jays, on the other hand, if you watch the end of that game, if you watch Vladimir Guerrero Jr., I couldn't be happier for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Take the microphone. Did you look at Derek Jeter like someone killed his dog? Could he have been less happy that he has to do an entire postseason and the Yankees are out of it? God, that made me smile. But he just looked like someone literally did something bad to him. A-Rod and his analysis was spot on, telling you that batting average matters. Toronto Blue Jays win games because they were a better team than the Yankees. They find a way to keep the line moving. They did a bullpen game last night. 8 pitchers, and the Yankees could not get anything going. Of course, David Ortiz, was happy. He interviews Vladimir Guerrero. Die, Yankees lose. The Blue Jays, meanwhile, are waiting for the winner of the Mariners-Tigers. That series was supposed to be over. The people in Detroit with MLB were not supposed to get on a plane and fly back to Seattle for a Game 5. The Mariners were not supposed to waste the opportunity in Game 4 because now they've got to face Skubal in Game 5. where it looked like the Mariners would make the World Series finally. All of a sudden, they have to get past the best pitcher in baseball to make it to the World Series, to make it to the championship series, where they will play the Blue Jays. The Mariners got off to a 3-0 lead last afternoon or last night, whenever the game was. And I guess that was the 3 o'clock game. It was the first game of 4. I didn't love, side note, Coca, couple things. The 3-5-7-9 situation with the games, it really does drive me crazy because there's overlap of games. So it's causing me to do a 2-screen solution where I've got the TV one side, I've got the iPad in the foreground, except my eyes require spectacles when I'm looking at something close to me. These Walgreens specials, $1.75ers. But then the TV's over there, so I can't watch the TV. Now, I could do end of the nose thing. I could go full Bryant Gumbel. Full Bryant Gumbel is when you put your glasses on the end of the nose and make believe that you're smarter than anyone else in the room. So, David, tell me, do you realize that you're the biggest villain in the history of 2 franchises? Thank you, Brian, but your glasses, they're not working very well. So I could do that where I look at the game like low, high, like bifocal. Wait, give me a break. Why can't we just do 1, 5, 9? You can't do every 4 hours, but I'd be fine with every 3 hours. 1, 4, 7, 10. I don't know why that was in my head, just because it drove me crazy. And then you really can't watch both games at once. But I did see the Mariners get to that 3-0 lead, and then the Tigers fought back. They win the game 9-3. The Tigers haven't scored that many runs since the year I was born, and believe me, that's a long time ago. But what I kept looking at as a former executive is, what are all those people doing walking the concourse in the middle of the game? Why are there so many people online at the concession stands in the middle of the game at Comerica? Why are there so many people not at their seats? And then it turns out, silly me, they weren't there at all. The Detroit Tigers failed to draw 40,000 people for the first time in the history of that park for a postseason game. What's going on? Were you despondent that you were down 2-1? You didn't like, is it like Cleveland? You didn't like the afternoon start time? It's not that I'm critical of people from Detroit, which I'm not. I just don't quite understand it. Yeah, you don't have a chance to clinch, but you have a chance to tie a series, go back to Seattle with your best pitcher pitching, the best pitcher in baseball, in which case you may end up in the ALCS where your view is we can beat the Blue Jays and make it to the World Series where we haven't won since 1984. It would seem to me that even George Orwell would be excited enough to attend this game. Absolute depression. That bothered me. I then got to the 5 o'clock game. My Brewers were playing. There's be something great about sweeping the Cubs. If you're a Brewers fan, you just want it, and you feel like you have the advantage. And then the game starts, and then your starting pitcher can't get out of the first inning, and the Cubs end up hanging on. Somehow the Cubs hang on and win the game 4-3. They scored all their runs in the bottom of the first. There is a very simple rule we have in baseball. If you don't add on, you're going to lose. For whatever reason, the Cubs did not add on and did not lose. Cubs fans are now doing what Yankee fans did after the great Yankees win of Game 3, saying, hey, just win Game 4, and then boom, you get to go to Game 5. So now we're at 2 games out of 4 where a clinch didn't happen. We had a chance for 4 clinching games. Would have been awesome. Game 1, Mariners-Tigers, clinchless. Game 2, Cubs-Brewers, clinchless. Cubs win. All right, let's get to Game 3, Yankees-Blue Jays. All right, we're 1 for 3. And then Game 4. We'll talk about Game 4 for a hot second here between the Phillies and the Dodgers. I assume that all of you may have watched Kyle Schwarber hit the ball 455 feet outside past the pavilion at Dodger Stadium, which it's hard to get the ball there. He absolutely crushed it. You may not have stayed awake or been around for Schwarber's second home run. You may not have seen JT Realmuto hit a home run. You may not have seen the fact that the Phillies' top of the lineup was you couldn't get them out. They went 9 for 16. You also may have missed the fact that Ohtani and Freeman, are 2 for 24 in this series. And yet the Dodgers are able to cover those ails in a way they couldn't a couple years ago. You may be saying, Philadelphia, you got it. You won that critical game 3, which they did. Now you just got to get game 4, and then boom, you got Christopher Sanchez. He's your best starter. And then you got a game 5. Anything can happen. We're back at the bank. Every series is the same. No clincher. Phillies won the game. What this game will be remembered for, do you remember when we started Coca this offseason? We were talking about this postseason. We were talking about Clayton Kershaw. And we mentioned the fact that Clayton Kershaw started the last game. No, that was Charlie Morton. Clayton Kershaw had a final start in Dodger Stadium. He was feted. He's retiring. He then came out of the bullpen the last game of the season. And we were told he's not going to be on the wild card series roster, which he wasn't. But then we were told he's going to be on the division series roster, which he is. Then we were told he's not going to start a game because you got Snell, you got Yamamoto, you got Glasnow. You don't need to start him. He doesn't deserve to start. But yesterday, Kershaw comes into a game, and I want to remind everyone, when you're the Dodgers and you're down 3-1 in a game, that's like a tie game. That can even be when you're trying to clinch a series or when you're trying to stay alive. So pretty much any game in the series, 3-1, the Dodgers consider that as a tie game, or maybe they're even up in the game when you're thinking about your bullpen usage, when you're thinking about how you're going to deploy the assets in your bullpen. They gave Clayton Kershaw the ball, and I felt terribly. He ended up giving up 5 runs, gave up 2 home runs. They had to pitch him 2 innings. The second inning is where you just looked at him. Have you ever had this feeling when you look at someone and you recognize the greatness in them? You think about and remember the way they used to be, the way they used to look, the way they used to sing. This happens to me when I hear bands or singers play. It happened with recently, Coca, a singer named Al Stewart, whose voice is enough to just make birds sing on a Saturday afternoon, singing Year of the Cat and Time Passages. And he was at a city winery, the same city winery where I performed during the last Nothing Personal tour. And he was singing Year of the Cat, and his voice, he's 80. I get it. It happens. Or when I see clips of Frankie Valli in Vegas or Barry Manilow in Vegas or Roger Daltrey with The Who, you just say to yourself, wow, I remember when that voice would bring me to tears. I have great recollection of Clayton Kershaw being so dominant that when you're facing him, it's done. There's nothing you can do. Your own starting pitcher knows they can't give up a run or you're going to lose. The offense knows they're not going to be able to help their starting pitcher, which is such a terrible way for an offense to feel going into a game. That is the definition of an ace, except Clayton Kershaw in his prime, which lasted a long time. He wasn't just an ace, folks. He was the ace of the aces. It's like going to a Hall of Fame and looking at Ichiro and saying, you're a Hall of Fame of the Hall of Fame. Like when Sandy Koufax walks into the room. That's what Clayton Kershaw is. And when he comes in and looks like this, the way he looked, if your breaking ball doesn't break, you're playing softball. And I kept thinking to myself, it's the equivalent of me going to visit my child in college and going to a fraternity party or a sorority party and thinking that, oh, I belong here, and then people call me grandpa. That's the feeling I got when I watched Clayton Kershaw. The series is not over. It's 2-1 Dodgers. I do believe the Dodgers will win this series. It would make sense that they win this series. The Phillies, we will get to talk about them during our next show, which is not going to be tomorrow, Friday, October 10th. Our next show will be Monday, the 13th. But I will have an opportunity to talk about either the Phillies or the Dodgers at that point, because someone will have lost. And it is a major thing for the Phillies if they lose this series. We'll see what happens. I want to mention something that happened before I get to the review today, because I've been trying to be helpful in my mind of trying to help my family. I've been trying to be honest with all of you of things that are going on, and there are still things going on. My daughter is still very, very, very sick, and it has caused me to have to miss certain things and be doing different things and planning different things. It's why I can't do a show tomorrow, and I apologize for that, but there's nothing I can do. And believe me, I'd like to be doing a show tomorrow. But the other thing that I want to tell you the reason we have the show late today is of things that were happening last night and early this morning. And I would just tell you that I'm getting help. I'm speaking to people and therapists and trying to figure out what to do. Last night was a bad night. I had just nightmares all night, night terrors. I was up, gasping for air 4 different times, and I had vivid nightmares. And to everyone out there who's reached out and continues to reach out, just thank you. You don't realize how meaningful it is to me. You don't realize the difference it makes to my family, because my family is seeing comments that you're making on shows and feeling the love and the support. It matters. And very often there's a huge increase right at the beginning when you hear something, and then it fades away. People fade away. But our loved ones and our friends and our audience and the people who are with us, whether it's Coca or anybody, it's continued, and you don't realize how important it is. So I'm not going to get emotional right now, because I'm just not. But I do appreciate all of you. And for those of you who are worried, I am getting help. I am, because I don't like having night terrors. I don't like having nightmares. I don't like that the nightmare when my eyes are open is worse than the nightmare when my eyes are closed. And the nightmare when my eyes are closed is so vivid and unbelievable that it's not even a quarter of a second that when I wake up and say, oh, was that a nightmare, which is what it used to be. But since September 12th, it's actually now, I can't discern between the nightmares I'm having when I'm asleep and I'm awake. That's just what's happening. And I promised you I would tell you what was happening. So thank you. All right, let's do a review, Coca. I hope that you have listened to some of my reviews and taken some of my suggestions. But I also understand that the only reason you should is if when I say I didn't like a movie and you watch it and didn't like it, that means I'm the reviewer for you. If you watch a movie that I said I loved and you love it, it means I'm the reviewer for you. If I tell you I don't like a movie and you watch it and you love it, I'm the reviewer for you because you fade me. If I love a movie and you don't like it, I'm the reviewer for you because you know what not to watch. So there really is no scenario that I can think of that when I review a movie, you'd be saying to yourself, oh, I don't know whether I should watch it, because under every scenario, you know what to do. Today is Thursday. That means that we are reviewing a movie from our top 100. Coda is number 64. We do not have a lot of movies left in the top 100 that we have not reviewed. I did not have time. I did not rewatch Coda, but I have such a vivid recollection of what this movie is. When you have Marlee Matlin and you have 2 actors who were nominated for Best Supporting, and you're thinking about Is there a market for a movie about a child of deaf adults? Is there a market for a movie where there is sign language and subtitles, and then there is speaking, there's singing, there is fighting, there is love, there is togetherness, there is guilt? Every emotion that we all feel as a family exists in this movie. How do I live my own life when I've got family who is struggling, when I've got family who I think need me, who I believe I can't do anything for myself because it would be at the expense of people who need something? And those people are my family. What do you do with that? The reason I wanted to rewatch Coda, and I haven't yet, and I really want to, and I don't know when I will, is that I understand that feeling more now than I ever have. I understand that any selfish thought that I had of doing something that I love is out the window, because all I can think of to do is to grab hold of my current family and take care of them to the best of my ability, which always ends up being not enough and may or may not even make a difference in what I'm trying to accomplish. Coda goes through these themes. It's not about sickness. Coda goes through these themes, though, and the end of the movie, the feeling you get at the end of Coda, I want you to have that feeling. I want you to see that. So I hope you'll watch it. We have a random number generator that is active that will tell us what movie I'm going to review next Thursday, hopefully. And that movie is, oh, do I love Legends of the Fall. Anthony Hopkins, Aidan Quinn, Brad Pitt, Julia Ormond, Henry Thomas. That is a great movie, Legends of the Fall. I have a plan this weekend, and every plan I ever have is in the last month or so is shot to absolute shinola. But I want to watch the new Mark Wahlberg movie on Amazon. It's called Play Dirty. I don't view Mark Wahlberg the way I now view Adam Sandler, who is just making movies that I'm not interested in watching right now, or just to Kevin Hart, who I love, who's just making movies to check the box. I'm not viewing Mark Wahlberg that way. I hope I continue to not view him that way. It's a movie called Play Dirty. I'd like to review it Monday, Coca. We'll find out. What is it, Coca? Oh, you did? Coca just yelled in my ear. I started watching that and I shut it off. Uh-oh. Well, Coca, though, you're not, I assume when I review movies, we'll talk about this. Coca, can you come on screen, please? I don't know if you're ready to, but can you come on screen? I know you can. I need you, Coca. Oh, he just said, give me a second. It means he's not ready. It means that he was not prepared to be on the show. After telling me, I am prepared, David, no problem. Whenever you need me, just bring me. And Coke, I'm telling you right now, I need you. So yeah. There you are.
I had to turn my light on. I don't have the light on the entire show. Can you hear me?
I hear you great.
You didn't answer. I said I didn't have my light on.
I'm just looking at you, thankful to you. If you're on Nothing Person with David Samson YouTube channel, you're seeing Matt Coca, the producer. If you're listening to this, the voice you hear is Matthew Coca, who's been producing since October. We're about to come on to our 6-year anniversary here on October 14th. But Coca, I need your help today on today's show, please, because I feel like I want to give the audience some stories and some information, and my brain is not working the way I'd like it to. And
all right, so well, I'm here to bring you back.
I was talking about.
Well, it's fine. I want to bring it back to a conversation that you had to start the show, and that's more about the Yankees and the fallout from the Yankees. What would you do in their situation where you have a team where last year you made it to the World Series and you sort of collapsed in the World Series? You expected to be back in the World Series again this year, and then things just don't go right, where you have Jazz Chisholm playing a position that he's not familiar with playing. Anthony Volpe, the whole season was, you got to bench this guy, he can't be there. The catcher position, where you have Austin Wells playing some games, and you had Ben Rice catching, what do you do at first base? So this was a team that it felt like on paper when you look at the names that it's a team that's capable of winning a World Series. But when you put all the pieces to where the Yankees had put the pieces, you realize that this team really wasn't built at all for winning a World Series.
Well, let's go a piece at a time there, Coca. You said Jazz was playing out of position. He's a second baseman, and they had him back at second base. So he was in position. Ben Rice, he played catcher, first base. He's definitely not a good first baseman. We saw that. His catching is mediocre, but he can hit, and it feels good. But when he's not hitting, then he's not very useful. Jason Dominguez was supposed to be a great answer, but they couldn't find a place to play him. They finally gave him a pinch hit yesterday where he doubled, actually, in the ninth inning. But that's not enough. And so you look at Paul Goldschmidt. He was so hot when the season started, let him play every day at first base, and then he went cold. So so I wouldn't say that the Yankees would look at their team and say we were not good enough to win the World Series. The whole reason I wanted to go with inferior is that I can see a path where Hal Steinbrenner and Brian Cashman would say, you know what? Just a bad little 4-game run here. Let's not lose our minds. But on the other hand, if you're Nick Turturro, or if you are any Yankee fan, I assume you're saying to yourself that it's enough, that we need something. But what is it you need? You want us to sign more free agent pitching? We brought in Max Fried, the number one free agent. Free agent hitting? I mean, what we have Aaron Judge, we have Stanton. I don't know exactly what fans would complain about, but it is a sad fact that they may just be an inferior team, which you remember, Coca, 29 of us are inferior every year.
Yeah, but it also didn't help that, and that wasn't something that you had mentioned, was that the flip-flop of who was a little more dominant this series when it comes to the Yankees pitching, where it was the starters are the most reliable thing that the Yankees have. They're going to pitch Fried, they're going to pitch Rodon, they're going to pitch Schlittler, and we're going to get these dominant starts from these guys. And it ended up that they couldn't get anybody out, and they gave up runs, and the Yankees were playing from behind to start. And that's really hard with a team where you said A-Rod had mentioned it, and I just want to mention it again, how important batting average is. Because the Yankees are built with guys who have 30 home runs or 20 home runs. They almost set the record for most players with 20 home runs in a season. But when you're not hitting home runs and you can't drive in runs, you have a problem. And that's what we saw in this series, was that the Yankees would get people into scoring position, and then you would get, them trying to go yard, and they get under the ball. It's a pop-up to shortstop or to shallow left field, or in some cases a strikeout if you're Anthony Volpe. But I just think
Trent
that
Grisham was bad, Coca, and he had a career year, and he just had a bad 4-game stretch. It was not the only bad 4-game stretch of the season, but when a lot of players have a bad 4-game stretch at once, you're going to have a hard time winning a series. And in terms of the starting pitching, I would tell you, when Cole was Tommy John'd and you had to move Fried and Rodon up, you had Heel, who was injured most of the year. And so you're going with Warren, you're going with Schlittler, you're trying to figure out who to start games. Don't forget this Yankees team. This Yankees team had Marcus Stroman start games this year. Mm-hmm. So it's not exactly, and they shored up the bullpen at the deadline, and the thought was the bullpen would become lights out, which it wasn't. So I'm not sure the Yankees should be looking at their team this year and saying we were a better team, but you get seduced into thinking that because their regular season record tied with Toronto with 94 wins, they got really super hot in after the All-Star break for a long period of time. But they were a team all year that you were looking at and thinking, we're being held together right now by pins and feathers, and at any time you're eligible to have a slump. And you know what my rule is. Pitching and defense, man, that's what I want. That's going to win me a ring. And the Yankees pitching didn't get it done, and the Yankees defense didn't get it done, and you lose the series.
But that's what I was talking about when it came more to Jazz, is because there were plays in this series where you saw, Yankee fans were really upset with some of the things that he did, where it was, the ball coming in from center field, and, he's not paying attention, and a runner scores from third. Or yesterday, I'm pretty sure he tried to glove a ball, and it got past him, went into center field.
It was an error.
That
was just a physical error.
But it's just one of these problems that, teams that win World Series, they're not they don't have those same sort of issues all the time, right? All the time, it was Volpe all season long with the throwing errors or booting the ball, and it's just the Yankees didn't have any replacements that could come in that could fit that void that they had, and they had such a big void when we talk about Volpe having 11 strikeouts in this series, having one hit. I don't know if that's just who he is, right? So it's just like shortstop is a really, really important position. And you're the New York Yankees. You'd feel like that at a premium position like that, they'd have a player who can fill in that gap. And we talk about, free agents, whether it's, Paul Goldschmidt is going to decide, he's not going to play anymore, what they're going to do with the bullpen with Devin Williams and Luke Weaver. If Cody Bellinger turns down his option, which he's likely going to do, are they going to give him a big long-term deal? Is that going to be somebody that they're going to want to pay $30 million a year for? Because if they don't have him, that's just another player who sort of produced this year for the team that they're going to have to figure out what to do. And that the constant is going to be Aaron Judge is going to perform. And we've seen that year in and year out. But it's the supporting cast around him that you'd expect to play better, but they're not doing it when it matters.
We're going to find out very quickly a couple things with the Yankees, Coca. Number one, we can go down the list. Devin Williams, they're not going to bring him back. So that's that. Luke Weaver, they may, but I could see a world where you get rid of Luke Weaver. Paul Goldschmidt, maybe at the end in February, a quick 1 year, $7 million Johnson, just to have him around at 39 years old, to not even platoon, but just in the clubhouse. Ahmed Rosario not coming back. Trent Grisham, very interesting. He's going to think because he hit 34 bombs that he's all of a sudden a $25 million player. This was a career year. Don't sign players at the top. So I don't know that works out. Cody Bellinger is going to decline his player option. Do not give him a 5-year, $150 million deal or even a 5-year, $125 million deal. Not worth it. Jazz Chisholm, he's under team control. He's got one final year of arbitration. I guarantee you want to do a wait to see, Coca? This is an official wait to see. Jazz Chisholm will not sign a long-term deal with the Yankees this offseason. Period. So for those of you thinking that including Jazz, that could happen because everyone loves Jazz, forget it. The best that Jazz has, Coca, is that the Yankees will tender him a contract, let him play out his final year because they don't want to trade out so many different guys, and then Jazz leaves as a free agent after the 2026 season. So you've got an opportunity, if you're a Cashman, to move out, 6 or 7 guys and really make substantial changes. But again, that's assuming, remember from the start of this hour, that Cashman goes down the road of, hey, we're inferior. If Cashman goes down the road of, we just had a bad 4 games, then Williams, Weaver, Goldschmidt, Rosario, Grisham, Bellinger, Chisholm, bring them all back. Let's go. Line them up. And it's funny, Aaron Judge after the game said that, Coca. He said, God, I wish you were spring training right now. We're ready to go right now. And of course, that's the feeling that all 29 teams feel the minute they're eliminated, is you just feel like, let's start because we want to get this sour taste, metallic taste out of our mouth. But that's why watching the Yankees off season, I could argue if the Phillies lose to the Dodgers, which I think they will, the Phillies and Yankees are the 2 most interesting teams to watch this offseason because if the Phillies lose in this round, John Middleton and Dave Dombrowski have to look at themselves, Coca, and say, wait a minute, we're not good enough. We have great regular seasons. We keep getting eliminated early in the postseason. Like, we got to do something. But certainly right now, the Yankees are already in that position.
Well, that's a great segue to this next topic.
The Nothing Personal Pick of the Day is presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. We are not going back to a Philly state of mind. The Dodgers have got to close this series out. They do not want to fly to Philadelphia. Hard stop. They need to find a way to win this game 4. They're putting out Tyler Glasnow. He is a pitcher who is not your ordinary Game 4 starter, but neither is Christopher Sanchez because the off days you get to go with your Game 1 starter. As a result, you'd think there'd be an advantage to the Phillies, except you're in Chavez Ravine. Hard to believe the Dodgers dropped 2 in a row at home, taking the Dodgers over the Phillies. Secondly, we've got the Eagles again. Do you remember when we were in the Philly state of mind? I don't remember what day that was, but we are back in the Eagles state of mind. Let's talk about this game, Coca. You had the possibility that Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley had a meeting with A.J. Brown saying, we love you, man. We hate you, man. Pay attention, please. Stop being a distraction. Please, we're trying to do something awesome here. Could you not get in our way? We don't know exactly what was said at the meeting. We just know that a meeting happened. The good news is that the Eagles are playing the Giants. And as Will Manso and every other Giants fan, from Moshe to everybody, you all know the Giants have a problem. Jackson Dart is not your answer. He didn't play badly last week. No, he did not. But the Giants just have a bad team. And the Eagles are only favored by a touchdown. So the nothing personal pick of the day presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Dodgers over the Phillies. Eagles over the Giants. Those are both happening tonight. Of course, we lost both yesterday. We had the Yankees beating the Blue Jays. Didn't happen. We had the Brewers beating the Cubs. Didn't happen. We're back to 127 and 133 games under, and it's a veritable outrage. So looking for a sweep tonight to at least crawl back to close to 500. The next thing I wanted to mention here is I want to get back to Milwaukee. I assume that Milwaukee is focused solely on the Brewers, as they should be. But while we were not paying attention, the Milwaukee Bucks have started training camp, and it's time. It's time. And Giannis is still a Buck. So why is it we're still getting questions and stories? But we did. And what Giannis said, it made me smile. Because I sort of understand, like, semi-married. Like, I don't really, am I married? Am I not married? Am I sort of married? Am I kind of really totally committed? Am I committed, like, to a plan on a Saturday night? Are you one of those people? You know what you're doing on Saturday night. You say yes to something, something better comes along, then you do that thing. Are you that person? Believe me, there's plenty of people who are that people. Do you hem and you haw when you're offered plans for Saturday night? Oh, I'm not so sure. I don't know what I feel like doing. I'll let you know. Is that because you really just want to be alone, wallowing in misery, or that you're waiting to see if there's a better offer and then you take the better offer, or if the better offer doesn't come, then you go out with the people? That, to me, is the concept that Giannis is doing, and I don't understand why, Coca. I don't understand why Giannis felt the need to come out and say, and he said this, I've said this many times, I want to be in a situation that I can win. I believe in this team. I believe in my teammates. I'm here to lead this team to wherever we can go. That is not exactly the type of leadership, Giannis, that I'm looking for in my highest paid, best player, MVP, one of the top 5 players in the NBA. You have to say, I'm here to lead this team to another championship. Then he said, and this is really something I don't really understand. I am locked in to whatever I have in front of me. Now, if 6 and 7 months I change my mind, I think that's human too. I am locked into this team. I'm locked into these guys, to this group, and to this coaching staff, and to myself. But if we lose 4 out of 7, now this is me, not Giannis, to be fair. If we lose 3 out of the first 5, 6 out of the first 8, we could try to get Doc fired. We don't get Doc fired. We try something else. But I could go to the Bucks at any moment and say, trade me. Does he understand that at best his Bucks are a play-in team in the East now? Does he understand that DraftKings, odds subject to change, assume that they're going to, at best, let's say an over would be winning 44 games? I'm just trying to understand if Giannis is aware that where he's leading this team to wherever we can go, what he should have said is, we're leading this team right into mediocrity and I am out of here. And then coincidentally, we find out that maybe his family has moved back to Greece. I thought Milwaukee was a great place to raise a family and how pumped up you were. I understand wanting to go home. I get it. Trust me, I get it. There's nothing I want more. However, if you're the Milwaukee Bucks and you're a fan of the Milwaukee Bucks, you understand that Giannis isn't going to be on your team next year. You do understand that, right? You understand that Giannis is going to demand a trade and force you to trade him at best. You understand that, right? When you are the front office of the Bucks and you are looking at your team and making decisions, you can no longer do anything to make Giannis happy. Surround him with his brother, his cousin, his mother, father. I don't care. Not anymore. We're about saving this franchise. We're about building this franchise for a future. We are about understanding that the team with Giannis is not good enough. Therefore, it's time. And the things that Giannis was saying, the quotes that I just read you, are a perfect indicator that it is time for that. They are a perfect indicator that Giannis has already basically made up his mind. Is it true he only wants to get sent to the Knicks? Who knows? Is it true because they have direct flights to Athens? I read that, Coca. Never read a bigger bunch of horse hockey in my life. I want to only be traded to a place where there's a direct flight. That's not exactly how players think, unless they want to be in Miami, which they say that's closer to the Dominican. So my family likes that. I never bought into any of that. Everyone's just an airplane away. So we'll see what the Bucks do. But as far as I'm concerned, they are in a position where they have not been in several years, like all of Giannis's years, where you are wasting a year of Giannis. You are paying him knowing that your team, there is nothing you can do to make your team more competitive in the East. I would take under their team total. The Bucks are going to have an issue, and it will have to resolve itself. NFL fans, what's your favorite touchdown? For me, it's the next one. Because with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, every touchdown could bring you closer to cashing in. From first touchdown score to anytime TD props or the thrill of live in-game betting, every snap is loaded with opportunity. It's another Monday night double for the NFL this week. The Buffalo Bills head to Atlanta as a 4.5-point favorite against the Falcons. And the Commanders are 4.5-point favorites hosting the Chicago Bears. Lines and odds are subject to change. Here's the best part. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Your team hitting pay dirt pays out to you. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code SAMSON. That's code SAMSON to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. It is Thursday, October 9th, 2025. Thank you for being with us for this hour two. We are going to start with a little programming note, which is no show tomorrow on Friday. I apologize. We will be back Monday, but there's no way. I got to take care of my producer. You got to take care of the people you work with and you love, and you know I love Coca. And if we don't do a show Friday, that's the day that he gets to be on the show for an hour. And I do not want to deprive him of that beautiful thing, because it's also fun for people to see him on screen and to hear him with his takes that are just preposterous half the time. But Coca's going to join me for this hour, and I needed him to talk about the first topic we're going to talk about, Coca, because this one you're going to have to really hold me down, because I have a feeling I'm going to say something that you're not going to like. So welcome, Matthew Coca, as we are approaching hour two. What's up, Coca?
I'm back.
Are you
You're
thrown
saying
off?
well, I'm saying you're saying it like they just didn't see me 10 minutes ago. And it's just like, this is my first time, appearing for the day, but I'm back. I'm back to help.
Are you annoyed that it's not like, do you mentally get ready for Friday, and now that it's Thursday and I threw this upon you, like, does that bother you, or are you good?
No, I'm good. I mean, but before we started doing this, there was a time where like I was like really nervous, and I didn't want people to like see that side of me, where it's like we get to start talking about some of these sports topics that have just been stewing in me, and it only comes out in the group chat. So now it's like people are seeing the group chat Matt out here with his takes, and I feel it as though I'm ready for this now.
So do you want to give me your thought on Bill Belichick, or do you want me to start? Because I have a feeling you're going to be more than unhappy with my view of what's going on in North Carolina. Are you worked up at all about the news? Because we got the full cycle yesterday. The full cycle was that Bill Belichick, there was a rumor, and I don't remember, it was someone from the media, that he has spoken to the higher-ups at North Carolina about the possibility of buying out his contract. We've gone through his whole contract in detail, but as a reminder, if he pays $1 million, he can get out of his deal. And so the rumor was he's going to look for a media job, which he could find tomorrow, or another coaching job, which he could find never, and that he then may just leave UNC. And so Pablo Torre gets excited, everyone's ready, and then the statements come.
Yeah, but here's the thing is that we all knew that this was going to happen, but you were one of the only people who said this was going to happen. He's an old coach, right? He's in his 70s, trying to go from the NFL to college. And it's not just about football when you're in college, or it's not just about managing a roster when you're in college. There's the NIL deals, there's scholarship deals, there's recruiting visits, there's going to see players. There's all these different rules that are involved that you don't have to worry about when you're an NFL coach. And what we've seen lately is the opposite, where whether it's Coach K at Duke in basketball, or Bruce Pearl just retired at Auburn, or we just saw Mike Gundy, who won a gajillion games for Oklahoma State in college football. He left. Nick Saban's a great one, where it's just these older coaches are leaving because they don't want to keep up with everything that's changing in this sort of wild, wild west that we've been discussing. And now you have Bill Belichick, who's coming down here, who doesn't know any of these rules, who's trying to learn it for the first time. He has the distraction of the girlfriend. He has the distraction of the Hulu project or the Hard Knocks project. It's all these things around the program. And now it comes out that one of the possibilities is that there's so many recruiting violations that have gone on at North Carolina that's just an added problem to the added problems, where we reported, or we read the reports that there were parents coming out saying it's a toxic culture, that they're not getting any communication from the coaches, that it's just a giant, giant mess. And now we've got these two great statements that you definitely need when it's a first-year head coach and you're only 5 games into the season. I hope I did a good job of explaining everything for everybody.
Now, listen, that's exactly what's going on. So I want to get to the statements, but before I do, I want to get to the recruiting violations. So Bill Belichick, you would imagine, is someone who doesn't feel the need to abide by any rules, doesn't need to understand them. He doesn't have anyone around him who does anything other than become a sycophant. And so Is it possible that he is violating the recruiting rules and that he is going to be subject to sanctions, suspensions? The program's going to get fined. And how is there any other way to look at the Bill Belichick situation than he's not going to be there long term? Then he's not going to be there for more than one season at most. The statements that came out are these one-line statements that were just so funny to me. And the first one was Bill Belichick. I swear to you, it's the whole statement. I'm fully committed to UNC football and the program we're building here. Do you remember we talked about what it is to be committed? Sometimes you need to be committed. Sometimes when you think you're committed, you're not committed because then you want to be committed to someone else. Sometimes you're committed to somebody else and you're committed to the people and program you're committed to, but then you're overcommitted, which makes you unreliable and basically underperform. So then you cut some of your commitments, thinking if you focus on the remaining commitments, that will make your level of commitment higher. And then you'll be able to say, I'm fully committed. I would imagine that Jordan read that, his girlfriend, and said, fully committed to UNC football. Forget that. You're fully committed to me. You're fully committed to what we're doing. And I would imagine that maybe other people in Bill Belichick's family are saying, fully committed to UNC. Come on, man. Don't you forget about me. Come on, this is simple. You're in my mind. Always, Dad, Gramps. But then Bill Belichick leaves it there. But North Carolina did a statement, and they released the two statements together. This one put a tear in my eye. It was so good. It just, mwah. Coach Belichick has the full support of the Department of Athletics and University. That was it. One sentence. Coach Belichick has the full support of the Department of Athletics and the university. Do you know that if someone calls the Department of Athletics and University and says, I will give you $30 million right now if you fire Bill Belichick, well, that'll be the end of him. Do you know that if some media company, Barstool, anybody goes up to Bill and says, we got a show for you, we got an idea, call Jordan. I don't do any of this. Call Jordan right now. Jordan, you want to talk about a career? Forget dealing with all these kids. You already were on campus. You saw that while you're close in age, it's no fun to be on a college campus when you're not in college. It can be looked at as weird. So here's what you do. Let's get Bill back in the media. We're going to get him. Believe me, we can have money thrown his way. There's no rules, no regulations, no recruiting, no problem. All we have to do is get him back the jobs he had, and then we can get even more jobs. And so the humor of it all, the true humor of it all, is that what Pablo Torre had said, what I had said, and what these statements confirm to me is that Bill Belichick is done with North Carolina in what will be a total failure. What Coca said that I'd not focused on was the reality that they're breaking all the rules. Now, Coca, I didn't know that, and I assume the investigations will have to take a long time, and I guess they could self-impose a punishment on Bill. Maybe that would be better, just suspend him right now for 3 games. But it is a total mess. College sports is just a mess, Coca. It's just a mess. What about this gambling thing that's going on in college sports now? You got to have an opinion about that.
Yeah, I've been going back and forth about this, where it's one of those things where it's like you should let people decide what they want to do. And if the rule comes out and it's like, do not gamble on just college sports, you can gamble on the pros, sure, go for it. But then I'm thinking to myself, in this new world of NIL, we've all been in college before. And that's probably when we were most irresponsible with our money. And I don't want it to be like one of these things where people are just blowing their money, irresponsibly gambling, where it's just, now you have this access to cash and you're trying to turn it into something else. But then the other side of me is the one where it's just like, hey, the rules are a little bit ridiculous, because it's like if I'm, a college athlete and I bet on, professional sports, I shouldn't have that impact me, when it comes to playing college sports. So I don't know.
A couple
I don't
things
know.
there. A couple things, Coca. Number one, we DraftKings does this as everyone does. Everyone needs to be responsible. If you're going to bet on sports, you need to bet responsibly. That is clear. There are services in place. There's phone numbers to call. If you feel as though you are in over your head or not being responsible, then you have to use those resources. Number two, the issue for me is that when enough people do something, Coca, is it possible that rules get changed to reflect the behavior that has become the majority? So what do I mean exactly by that? College players, actually, I want to put it in a totally different way first. How many people jaywalk? Show of hands. I do, for sure. All of us jaywalk. I mean, there are certain people in certain cities who don't jaywalk, and I'm actually offended by them because I have to squeeze through to get to the front of the people waiting to cross the street. I'm like, guys, there's no cars. Let's go. No, it says don't walk. I don't care if it says don't walk. I got places to go. I don't want to stand on the curb right now. But the laws don't change. Everybody jaywalks, but it's still against the law to jaywalk. So, do you think that before the NCAA Division I Administrative Committee decided, which just happened yesterday, to adopt a proposal that will allow these student athletes, of course, I don't call them that, will allow these college players to gamble? Is it possible that they've been gambling the whole time? Of course it is. So what they're doing is changing a rule to reflect the behavior of the majority when in fact you could have kept the rule as is, except are there times when you change a law, you change a rule, not just to reflect the reality of what people are doing, but because it's the right thing. If we're going to continue to say, live and let live, if we're going to continue to tell you that a college punter has no absolute impact or say or sway or any involvement in a professional game, then of course they need to be allowed to bet on professional games in states where it's legal, doing it responsibly in the right way, etc. There is no reason in the world. Of course they can't bet on college sports. That's absurd. What used to be is that there was absolute, you may not gamble if you are in sports. Those rules have been relaxed. Players in baseball, you're allowed to bet. You just can't bet on baseball. You're allowed to figure out ways, pools that you can do, survivor pools and NCAA pools. There have been exceptions made along the way to reflect the fact of what's real and what's not. To me, what is not real is when the NCAA's chief medical officer sends out a release about this new ability for college athletes to bet on sports. The chief medical officer of the NCAA came out and said, quote, abstinence-only approaches to social challenges for college-aged individuals are often not as successful as approaches that focus on education about risks and open dialogue. I thought that those quotes were reserved for people who want to make sure there's no premarital sex. I thought that those conversations about abstinence was about drugs. I never heard abstinence used in the capacity of gambling or used in the capacity of any addiction you may have or any thought you may have that's not an addiction, anything that could become an addiction. How many things do we all do every day that could become an addiction but aren't? All day. And yes, some things become an addiction. So then what we do is we rate our addictions. Some addictions we're like, we don't want to do that. Don't see me ever doing crack. Other addictions, you're like, yeah, I can do that a couple times. I'll do that just on weekends. You know what? Thursday's close to a weekend. My God, Monday, we got to get going into the week. Monday's fine. We can do it Monday. All of a sudden, you turn your head and you're like, oh, that is an addiction. Oh, just twice a day, 4 times a day. Holy crikeys, it's now 10 times a day. It is, of course, normal human behavior, people with addictive personalities or addictive tendencies, that they have to watch out for addictions, and therefore abstinence may become the right play. The number of people who gamble responsibly, and this is not because DraftKings is a sponsor. You know me, DraftKings has been so good to me. With my personal circumstance, I could say just about anything on the air, just about anything on anything, and DraftKings would be supportive. Of course, I would never do anything to put them in a position to be supportive of something they didn't want to be supportive of, unless I actually thought it, in which case I would say it, because you know me, I'm happy to say anything as long as I believe it. The whole thing about legalized sports betting and having people have access to it is the ability to actually monitor in a way that never existed before. The whole thing about legalized sports betting is the same thing to me that's legalized about cigarettes, that's legalized about alcohol. I frankly don't understand why drugs aren't legal, because yes, you're going to have drug addicts, you're going to have gambling addicts, you're going to have cigarette addicts, you're going to have addicts who are addicted to porn, you're going to have addicts who are addicted to whatever they're addicted to. That is part of the cost of doing business in a society, in a community. You treat the addiction. Some people want to be treated, some people don't. Some people end up in jail, some people don't. Some people end up dead and some people don't. That is the essence of addiction. We cannot stop the behaviors of people who are able to behave because there are those who can't. It's the same concept I had with basically saying there's a bad cop out there, therefore cops are bad. There are people who abuse the access to gambling, but that doesn't make all gambling bad. There are people who abuse the access to alcohol. That does not make all drinks bad. Abstinence only. I'm out. So this medical examiner, that's funny. It ain't Jack Klugman. It's Diana Casiero, is the chief medical officer. That is a absolute reference, Coca, and you're thinking I am a lunatic. It's a reference to Quincy. Maybe The Odd Couple, but mostly Quincy. Anyway, boy, explaining that joke made me have to lose my train of thought. Abstinence only, not as successful. I agree with that. I just don't like the fact that we're using abstinence as a way to talk about the gambling issue. So the NCAA has changed the rule. Now Division II and Division III are going to consider this, and believe me, they're going to adopt it. It is a guarantee. What will happen going forward? What will happen going forward is that there will be monitoring. What will happen going forward is the algorithms will pick up on irregular activity at the both pro and sports and college sports level, which is what you want. What will happen is the algorithms and the computers will sit around and figure out who's being responsible and who's not, which is what our legal system is supposed to be in the first place. Sorry, Coca. I just had a lot of thoughts on that. Did I lose you? Are you gone? There you are. Yeah, I'm emotional about this one because people are just losing their minds. I've gotten so many people contacting us about what's going on with gambling and college gambling and everything else. I hope people are a little more clear right now.
Yeah, I mentally moved on already to something I'm more interested in.
What's bothering you right now?
College. Well, it's not even about bothering. It's just the story came out yesterday. I mean, that's not true. This, what you're doing right now, is definitely bothering me. I'm trying to talk. So Stanford football got a $50 million donation. Andrew Luck, who's now the GM there, came out and said this is going to be great for our NIL. It's going to be great for scholarships. The thing in these statements that always makes me laugh, and it really, really does make me laugh, is that they still call them student athletes or scholar athletes. Like, we've moved so far past it being a schooling thing and them being students that they are just athletes, all right? They're paid to be there. They're paid to play. They're making large sums of money when we're talking about Division I athletes, and this just furthers the case that we're getting $50 million from one donor just to the football program. But this is where we are in athletics.
So are you against, I'm just trying to understand before I tell you my view of this issue, are you against these type of donations to a program?
No, I think if you are a school and you can get a donor to give up $50 million just for your program, then do it. You know, I wish West Virginia, I wish there was, we had some coal money or some oil money or something that we can get thrown at the football program so that we can put a better product on the field. But right now, I'd be happy with 5 wins in a season. But until that happens, I can't fault programs for going out there and crowdsourcing money, because if people are going to pay up because they want to see some wins, go for it.
Well, this wasn't crowdsourcing. This was going to a former player on your team from the 60s, a really rich guy named Bradford Freeman, and saying, hey, any interest in taking care of the football program? I love general donations to endowments, where the general fund, basically, where you can give people the power to use the money however they want to. But most people want to give money toward a specific thing. But in college, if you ask Stanford, so this is what I was thinking. If you ask Stanford for reals, you're about to get a $50 million gift from someone, where do you want to use it? I believe that Stanford would not have football as the number one place they would use it. They would put it into research. They'd put it into STEM. They'd put it into endowing chairs for professors. They'd put it into what makes Stanford Stanford. But $50 million, when someone comes in and says, hey, I'll give you 50, but it's only to the football program. Of course, you're not going to turn that down. But the question is, does it change anything about the football program? Because the quotes that came out, basically, the GM Andrew Luck said, with Brad's incredible gift, we are positioned to win on the field and build a bridge to a sustainable future for Stanford football. So I just have a quick question for you, Andrew. That means that you didn't have enough money from your university, from your boosters, from your collectives, whatever the case is. You didn't have enough money to pay the players you wanted. So therefore, you've got a list of players who you would take right now with this $50 million. Are you going to use it over 10 years, 20 years, 5 years, 2 years? Are you using it all next year? What exactly is your plan? Or are you using it for capital improvements, to improve the stadium, to improve the office space? Until I understand what the $50 million is going for, what's the payment terms? It's possible. I mean, who knows? Bradford Freeman may be making the gift after he croaks. That's very common. A legacy gift, a gift that comes sort of post-life. But what if the guy lives for 40 more years? Or what if it's payable 10 years, $5 million a year? You can't. That means you can only use $5 million of it. If it all came in a lump sum, do you want to blow your whole wad on your roster for next season? Even though Frank Reich is the interim coach, he won't be there next season. You'll have a new coach. Or do you want to keep your powder dry and all of your student athletes right now? See you later. You'll get out of Stanford. You'll cure cancer, please. That you can cure disease, that you can find a way to make the world. How about Middle East peace? Find a way to do that. Anything, please. Is that really something that the scholar athletes will do? So there's so much about this gift that we don't know, and that is the real world of gifts. Amounts are announced, like when you name a building, $100 million, except it's payable over 20 years. When these NIL gifts come, these program gifts come, you got to look at the details of the contract, because it's a full contract that's negotiated with these donors. It is not just, hey, they wire money into the account. It is a negotiated contract between a rich donor and the university who receives it that goes into very specific detail. Details like, how much power does Brad Freeman have over where the money is used within the football program? If Stanford wants to buy a new weight room and wants to buy Frank Reich, bigger pants, that can be allowed, or you can specify that it's not allowed. So a lot of stuff, and we just don't have that information. It is a nice gift for Stanford. Don't get me wrong, Coca. However, I certainly don't believe in what Andrew Luck said, which is this is going to now change and build a bridge to our sustainable future, because really it may just enable them to get back to par with the teams that are competing for, who already have bigger budgets, more money being poured into their football program. So we will wait to see on that. But that was.
But there's also the other part of this thing, and that is that front office sports came out and they had this report that a legislator tried to bring a bill forward to stop private equity from coming into college. And you had seen that the Big Ten had recently come out and said that they're looking around to try and get, I think it's $2 billion to help with these settlement payments and to help with the salary caps that these
Just get money
programs
to
and
teams.
these teams would have. So, my question to you would be, if people don't want money coming from private equity because of what that brings and sort of the dangers that they've seen in other industries when it comes to private equity coming over and wanting to churn out profits and gains and just worried about that, where do they expect this money to come from? And you've seen what some schools have done where they're raising ticket prices, or for students that weren't paying for tickets before, that's now being added to your tuition. Or if you are a student, maybe they bump up your tuition in other places and still extract that money just to pay for the athletics. Or it's the biggest one where it's a lot of athletic programs are going to disappear. Where if you're a smaller school, you're going to disappear. If you're a smaller program in a school like the swim team or the dive team or the tennis team, any of these other teams, you're going to disappear. So my question to you would be like, where else can they turn on a faucet to get money to keep up with what's happening in this landscape?
You got to have a really rich alum who like to dive. Or you have a rich alum whose child likes to dive. That's always a popular one as well. Or you could have a really rich alum who pretends that his child dives. You could try that too. I always used to, I don't know if you ever did this. I had, when the years of Duke, like being really good, and maybe they still are, or whatever. There's always, have you ever looked at the end of the bench on Duke with the 5'5" white guys, which always gave me hope that I could play college sports or I could play high school sports? You need someone on the end of the bench, like, why not? Have you ever, I've always thought about those guys, how happy they must be to be on the team. They don't see minutes. Sometimes in garbage time, they'll come on the court, and maybe they were the best in their prep league, but that wasn't your question. Your question was, what is going to happen to these other sports? How do you find the money? And the answer is very simple. These colleges are like countries. They've got huge budgets, multi-hundreds of pages of budgets. Money's fungible, so you can take money out of one area, move it into another, but you're hurting something to help something, which is robbing Peter to pay Paul. That's where the expression comes from. And for me, colleges are just the business. And yes, sometimes in business, a franchise location will close. Sometimes in business, they will stop doing a show. They will stop putting money into this research or this development. The colleges have always been a business, so I've never been upset about that. And the reality is, in business, hard decisions have to be made. And often what universities used to do is they would hide behind the fact they were universities and therefore use federal funding or use donor funding to not have to make tough decisions. And those days are over. You've got to make tough decisions right now. And that's all that's happening around college. And frankly, it's happening everywhere in the country, if not the world, that people are realizing that, hey, given where we are politically, tough decisions do need to be made. I want to go on to another thing, Coca. I have to talk about Joe Flacco. I have to. And it's not that Flacco was traded to the Bengals. Flacco started for the Browns. Are the Bengals playing the Browns this week by chance? Because that would be amazing.
No, I think they're playing the Packers.
Oh, it would have been amazing.
Who Joe Flacco beat when he was the quarterback for the Browns.
This week, this season?
Yeah.
So, Flacco has a chance to beat the Packers with two different teams in the same season.
In a different division.
That's very cool. That's interesting. So Joe Flacco, number one quarterback for the Browns, gets traded to the Bengals because a few days ago, Dillon Gabriel was moved up to be the starting quarterback and Flacco was going to be the backup. And then all of a sudden, Coca, the head coach, I don't know why he did this, but Kevin Stefanski in an organization that from the top down, from Haslam on down, has its issues. We've covered the lawsuits that are going on with the new stadium they're trying to build. We've talked about Deshaun Watson till we are green in the face with envy. That's but what they did yesterday, why did he do it? Why did he have to be non-committal about whether Shedeur Sanders would be the backup quarterback to Joe Flacco? God damn it, 4869. Why would Kevin Stefanski have to be non-committal about whether or not Shedeur Sanders was the backup to Dillon Gabriel this week?
Because this is what people do in sports. This is what coaches do. This is what executives do. And then it becomes so much of a story that they don't know what to do anymore, so they just say nothing. He could end this entire thing by just saying, hey, Dillon Gabriel is going to be our starter for the rest of the season. But they don't believe that. They could say Shedeur Sanders is going to back up Dillon Gabriel. That's what's going to happen. But they're not saying it, and it just becomes more of a story, and now you're going to have more questions, and there's so much attention right now on what Shedeur Sanders is doing, and it's crazy to me because they're just a bad team. They're a bad football team, and we're so interested in what's going on with the quarterback position for a bad football team. That's
Coca,
why I don't think it should be a story.
You told me, though, that analytics, that if you just say Shedeur Sanders, like, people are happy. So Shedeur Sanders, but can you imagine if he stays as the third-string quarterback and Bailey Zappi, who is the practice squad quarterback, gets elevated past third string to QB2, which is what Sanders has always wanted, and he's looking and he's like, what is going on here? If you're Shedeur Sanders, and I'm wishing Dion a recovery, I don't think he'll be on the sidelines this weekend for Colorado. He's had more issues with clotting and blood clots in his legs, and he's had another incident, but he's hoping to return soon. I want him to return soon. As much as I do not believe that he and Colorado will be married for very long, I do, however, not want him to be sick at all, nor for Shedeur to have a father who's sick. All of that being said, now that's the wrong expression because now you're going to think I'm going to say something bad and rude. It's just I want to segue to Shedeur and Dion have to be pissed off. Can you imagine if he is passed up? And it's not just a optics thing. There's a money thing. Practice squad players do fine. Don't get me wrong. They can make like $300,000 a year to be on the practice squad. But when you're on the active roster, you're getting paid. And when you're QB2, you have an opportunity to start earning bonuses because then you are one injury away, one bad play, one concussion from being right in the game. So if Shedeur is not QB2 this weekend, I think that we're going to see some more issues with Shedeur and Dion.
Yeah, but here's the... Shedeur Sanders should look at it like this. I am on an NFL team. I'm already there. I'm on the roster. I have a chance to just go out and practice, play my best, learn the playbook better than everybody else. And if Dillon Gabriel succeeds, great. That means the team is winning football games, or he looks like a superstar out there and you can start building. But if you're Shedeur Sanders and you're waiting for that opportunity, just do whatever you can to be the best version of Shedeur Sanders that you can. And that means ignoring what Rex Ryan is saying about you, because Rex Ryan doesn't matter. Rex Ryan isn't going to put you in the football game. Nothing that Rex Ryan says is going to impact your career. So I think he should stop with the shenanigans, stop doing the locker room stuff, stop responding to a lot of this, and just practice to be the best version of Shedeur Sanders as a quarterback as you can. Because if your opportunity isn't going to come with the Browns, it could come with a different team. And, if Bailey Zappi passes him on the depth chart, who cares? There can only be one quarterback that plays, and teams know what Bailey Zappi is. That's why he's a practice squad player. But he's more of a veteran player, so if something does go wrong into a game, if Dillon Gabriel is getting crushed in a game and the defense is eating him alive because the offensive line sucks, that's not a great position to put Shedeur Sanders in to come, for his first experience in the NFL, is being thrown directly into the fire.
I just want to clarify, Coca. Are you saying that Shedeur Sanders being passed by Bailey Zappi is a positive for Shedeur Sanders?
It means nothing. It means nothing.
So just
absolutely
flat.
Nothing. It means nothing. It doesn't matter. I mean, you can disagree, which is fine, but it's just, Bailey Zappi is just a veteran quarterback. You want a veteran quarterback on your team. You want somebody who, if things go wrong, you can put him into the game, and that's why everybody has them. Not every team does what the Browns have done, and that's have one veteran quarterback and then two rookie quarterbacks on their roster. And that's once again the only reason we're talking about what the Browns are doing is because the Browns decided to be the Browns and draft 2 quarterbacks, in this draft when they had, Joe Flacco on their roster and they had Kenny Pickett on their roster already.
He's 100 years old. Flacco. He's 100.
Okay, but but still,
close.
They should have just went through the entire draft and they should have drafted 7 quarterbacks. If they draft 7 quarterbacks, at least maybe one of them works out, because I think it's since 99 or since 2000, they're on to their 41st unique starting quarterback. So if you're Shedeur Sanders, you know what? Maybe you want out of Cleveland because you don't want to be, added to that list of quarterbacks who have been there and failed. Yeah.
Hey, Coca, is it time? Will you help me with this as the producer and friend? Is it time where I have to just say that the A's are moving to Vegas? Like, is today the day? Season tickets. We've got a whole segment to talk about season tickets and pricing and stuff. And I still haven't taken the wait to see loss. I'm still unwilling to admit the ballpark's going to open on time. I just can't imagine how. I still can't imagine how they're going to draw tourists the way they say they're going to. I can't imagine anything, but is today the day? Because I'm not ready. I'm really not mentally ready to do it. But if you tell me today's the day, I'm going to do it.
I think if and when the stadium opens up, when it hosts opening day, it has its first game, that's when you can do it. Because right now, I don't understand the industry in full when it comes to building, but I have friends who own building companies, and they talk about just how expensive it is now to just build regular houses. So I can't even imagine how expensive it is going to be to build this stadium in Vegas in the way that they want it to be built. And I just don't know if they have the money to continue to pour into this stadium project. So maybe the stadium opens up and it's not John Fisher who's in charge. Maybe that could be a possibility. I don't know. But I just wouldn't have you take it yet, because there are so many factors that are going into whether it's the industries out there, because you've seen what's happening in Vegas with, tourism's down, but there are casinos that are going under. There are casinos that are firing most of their staff. There's a lot that's changing in Vegas, and I won't let you take a wait to see loss just yet.
So there is a way to control the price of a new ballpark. If you have a certain kind of contract, it's called a GMP, a guaranteed maximum price. That is where you lock in the price of your ballpark and you attempt to have it look like the construction documents and the design development documents that exist. But you recognize that if things change and the world happens or the price of steel changes, that it's possible that your ballpark will not look exactly like the original renditions. That's not the word rendition. What is the word? This is happening to me, Coca, right now, live on our show. What is the thing that when we show what a ballpark's going to look like?
Renderings.
It's renderings. Why did I say maybe it is a rendition. A rendition of a stadium? It just didn't sound right to me. I'm sorry, folks. I truly am sorry. So you can control the price, Coca, and say, all right, we are not going to go above $1.5 billion. Except now the A's have said, all right, it may be about $2 billion to build the ballpark. Some people are saying it could be over $2 billion to build the ballpark. I'm telling you that to get a ballpark open on time, you can work extra shifts, you can pay overages. I'm telling you that you can change scopes in order to try to keep the price down when you have to increase the price elsewhere. I'm telling you that you can fool around with your projections and increase the cost of tickets, increase the concessions, increase what it costs to have a sign behind the plate in the 4th inning as a way to make up for the increased debt service that you have, meaning the amount of interest you have to pay back to people who you borrow money from every year. There are ways to handle, from a business standpoint, anything that can come your way, including what, and Coca, help me here, I think it was David Tepper. Is he the one who started to build the practice facility and just stopped and it was half built?
Yep.
We did all sorts of segments about this. I think it was the Carolina Panthers.
Correct.
But
You're correct.
It was. Okay. So the other thing you can do if you run out of money, you can just stop, which is what Vegas and the public authority in Vegas said can't happen. Miami did the same thing with Marlins Park. There was a contractual provision in place that completion of the ballpark once started had to happen. And there were guarantees that had to be put in place by the private partner about how that would happen. But there are so many things. But I'm going to go with you. I'm not going to take the loss. However, I'm going to mention that there's now information out there about season ticket prices in the Vegas ballpark. And I want to remind you, when we threatened to move to Vegas before Marlins Park happened, when we were going to move Miami Marlins to either, it was the Florida Marlins at the time, either to San Antonio or Portland or Vegas, etc. The deal that we had with the mayor of Vegas is that we would build a ballpark that had no sort of middle class. They'd have bleacher seats for poor people, and they'd have unbelievable suites for the casinos and the rich people, and the casinos would buy out the suites in advance. They'd buy all the food in advance, give it to their high limit players. And if the people didn't show up, we didn't care because everything was paid for in advance. So Vegas, we always knew in our mind, was going to be a very disparate set of pricing, really high, really low. So the Las Vegas Review and Journal came out yesterday, and they went through some of the ticket prices. They went through some of the offerings. And two things were in the article that I want to mention that are of note. One, there is the possibility that the Sacramento Aths are going to sell quarter season tickets out of the gate to people in Vegas. That means you buy a 20-game package. I would tell you that we were in a market, Miami, that was terrible. We had very few season ticket holders. And when we started selling season tickets, we were focused on full season ticket buyers. We wanted all 81 games sold to people, to brokers even, to anybody. We want the full season to be sold. You only then move to 40-game plans half season, 20-game plans quarter season. You only do that when you have to because you have not gotten the response on the full season tickets that you want. For the Vegas A's to already consider offering quarter season ticket packages, I get why you'd put the word consider. I would tell you it's so early that considering it, I would not have it out there. We planned for all that. Don't get me wrong. We had pricing in place. We had plans in place. We had sections in place where we were going to offer what, where we would go to half season, quarter season. We'd never do it at the prime seats. We would do it in the subprime seats. But we never wanted to publicize all that. We wanted to talk about, come, bring me, you're tired, you're hungry, you're poor, and buy 81-game plans. But then Vegas, also as part of this article in the Las Vegas Review Journal, mentioned something that we didn't have the ability to do in Miami, but we wanted to, and it's called a personal seat license. You may be familiar with PSLs if you're a football fan. PSLs are when you have to pay money to have the right to spend money. You pay a sum of money to have the right to buy a license for that particular seat that you've spent money on. It is a great way to raise extra money. When you're negotiating a ballpark deal and you're coming up with sources and uses of funds, we have a $2 billion ballpark. Where's the money going to come from? Well, it's going to come from the owner. It's going to come from the state. It's going to come from the county. And then it's going to come from PSLs. Personal seat licenses, that's you. That's the audience. That's the fans. And what came out in the article is that a personal seat license could range anywhere between $6,000 and $106,000. Can you imagine that you want a row one seat and you want it so badly that you'll write a check for $106,000 just to then write a check for $80,000 more every year if they charge $1,000 per seat per game? And by the way, unless you don't want to go alone, and listen, who doesn't like to be alone 3 times a week for 3 minutes at a time? But that said, it can be even more than that. Whatever, floats your boat. But no one is buying a season ticket. So you buy a pair and you're looking at $212,000. I'm just telling you that when you need to charge that kind of money, you have an idea of what your market is. You better have done a deal with casinos that they're not just buying your suites, they're buying your PSLs, and they are so behind this baseball transaction, except the casinos are on their buttocks. The casinos are panicked. Look at their stock prices. Look at what is happening with their overall revenue. The fact that you think that there is an opportunity that they are going to really participate in all of this for the Las Vegas Ats, I don't see that happening. But Coca, we're going to wait to see. But it is interesting. Thank you for not making me take the loss. If you're a fan who's going to buy tickets right now, I do have another suggestion for you. It's sort of like buying tickets to a game. If you're willing to wait, you're going to end up getting a better price. Speaking of waiting and getting a better price, Coca, did you see about the fan who's suing LeBron James over his Hennessy ad? Please tell me you saw that. Please.
Yeah, I did see it. I mean, listen, what can we even say about it, right? There's just...
Well, I assume you're angry with the fan, not with LeBron.
I mean, I'm not. I have zero feelings towards any of this situation. I think it's just ridiculous. It's just...
Well, that's really adding value. What does that mean? Are you saying
well,
that what LeBron James did is
but my
wrong
question
or
is,
not?
I mean, what question are we trying to add value to in this situation? Like, what are we going to say? Oh, the fan's a fool. The lawsuit's never going to happen. And then that's it. That's the end of the story. And then we can move on.
I love the fact that people like to cover their mistakes with our legal system. It makes me crazy. It really does. Can you imagine LeBron James getting served a lawsuit that says because of his second decision, which turns out to be a Hennessy ad, that someone is suing him because they bought tickets to that Jazz game that we talked about on yesterday's show, that Jazz game that now is just a regular game, and now he wants LeBron to pay him? You know, I mean, LeBron obviously could bring that lawsuit right into the bathroom and use it as toilet paper, no question about it. But he's got to send it to Maverick Carter, who's got plenty of time now. But he's got to send it to his lawyer. He's got to do something. And I find it to be irresponsible. And so what I am proposing is that LeBron James countersues this person. And this is so mean. And I don't mean to be mean because I want to be full of love. But I want this person to be run out of town. I want this person to lose every dollar they have, and I want the lawyer disbarred. The lawyer who is willing to represent this person, I want that lawyer disappeared. I want improvements to our legal system because that kind of lawsuit made me crazy.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm glad you got that out. You added a lot of value to that situation right there.
So much better.
Yeah, people, listen, I could see it in the chat right now. Everybody is cheering. They're having the time of their lives, and they're saying that was the best 2 minutes of their life, outside of Vegas.
I doubt they're saying that because everybody in their life has had a great 2 minutes.
All right, let's just as we leave today, let's just update people once again on what the schedule is going to be. So there's going to be no show again tomorrow, and then just stay tuned. I will be putting out messages, whether it's on you do it via your social media channels, or people are checking on the YouTube page, because I am posting on the board there, updates with times, updates with the schedule. So, everybody just pay attention to that. And that's all I have.
If you're listening to this right now, the episodes will be released when we do them, and I can only tell you that your patience and your support is so appreciated. It's just that right now, Coca, and something happened while we were filming the show. Like everything, I was going to stop, but I wanted to finish the show. But it's just that every day there is something that I have to deal with, and it's not the normal, believe me. And I know I haven't given details, but it's just not. This is not happening the way anyone would have thought or dreamt or prayed or hoped for. And so therefore, I got to go right now. But thank you very much for doing the show with me, Coca. Everyone have a safe weekend. We will catch up Monday is my hope. It's just business. Thank you for allowing me to be personal.